So they haven't come right out and said it, but the Florida Gators have kind of told us what their approach is in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Tuesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. And a reminder that A.J. Brown, Ohio Bobcats guard, is visiting the Florida Gators today out of the transfer portal, or at least at the time of recording this, is scheduled to visit today out of the transfer portal. And if he commits, we will be going live for that once that happens. But we're talking football today. We are, because the Florida Gators, they've kind of told us what their approach to roster building in general is going to be. And I have to say that I do believe that there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. I do think that there's such a thing as being too reliant on high school recruiting or too reliant on the transfer portal. And I think that what the Florida Gators are doing is the right thing, that they're doing things the right way. And I do think that that's important. I believe that, which first off, I'm going to say this. I think Florida's doing things the right way. You can disagree with that. You're totally fine to disagree with that. You're entitled to do that. And I encourage you to do that. I know some people hate when I have hard stances on things because they go, just report the news. I don't care about any of that. I get paid because I have a damn good sports mind. I'm going to share it. I think Florida's doing things the right way. I think that the proper approach to building a football championship caliber roster is do most of your work through, I used to say through high school recruiting, and I do want to slightly adjust that. I do think that high school is the most valuable thing. I do think that high school should be the priority, but I'm changing the verbiage here. I think the proper way to build a team is mostly through multi-year acquisitions. That's what I'm calling them now. This is a talent acquisition business. I'm talking about multi-year acquisitions. So high school recruiting is one, but also bringing in young players in the transfer portal that can be multi-year contributors. Caleb Banks was that. Cam Jackson was that. Looking at Graham Mertz would have been that if he was healthy this year. Zaquan Patterson is in the transfer portal now, maybe visiting the Florida Gators. He would be a multi-year contributor. That's what I mean. George Gums, another one. That's what I mean when I say a multi-year contributor. Okay? We're talking about someone that's going to come in and be here for 3-4 years. Usually, again, that's going to be usually a high school player, because those are the guys with eligibility like that. But we've always said, and we'll talk about the portal again, one of the good portal takes is a guy who's been in college for no more than one season, right? That's a good portal take there, because I look at that as an extension of high school. And I don't harp on high school recruiting too much of like a bad take. There's guys I disagree with the film and disagree with the ranking, but even then I'm kind of just like, they're so young that it's hard to really say that, oh, he's not going to amount to much, or I don't think he's going to amount to much. It's tough to say that. So I don't. But build mostly through multi-year acquisitions, which Florida has done a tremendous job of doing. Then you use the winter portal to address any glaring needs or just valuable needs. We don't have an answer at backup quarterback. Oh, go get Deshaun Purdy, which of course didn't work out, but then you went and got Harrison Bailey, but that didn't work out. So stuff like that of using the winter portal to address what you think is a glaring need on your team. Bringing in a Kofi Asari, who you went, hey, we need an edge rusher. We need some edge help. Let's bring in a guy that can help on the edge. Kofi Asari. Hey, we need an X receiver. Go get J. Michael Sturdivant. Hey, we need a QB, go get Graham Mertz. Hey, we need 2 receivers, go get Elijah Badger, Chim DK. So using a portal for that, and then you go through the spring. You go through all your spring practices, you go through the spring game, you evaluate what your needs are, and then you use the spring portal to address what you can. And I phrase that specifically because I do think that, and it's screw it. Let's not even say what I think, right? Let's not even say what I think about what you can and can't get. This coaching staff thinks that there are certain positions that you can get an immediate contributor at, or not even say can. There are certain positions that are pretty difficult to get someone that could be an immediate contributor at. And if it's a multi-year player, fine. But when we talk about, oh, Florida needs a starter at this position, that might not be a position they think they can get in the spring portal. Right? And even if they do add someone at one of those positions, then maybe you think, oh, it might be a little desperate. But we know that this coaching staff, Billy Napier, has said, hey, we think that we can go into the spring portal and get a receiver that can get in, learn the playbook, and be able to contribute right away. We think we can get that in spring portal. They've done it multiple times. And again, Billy Napier has said that before, that, hey, we can add that. Okay? I know that something a lot of people talked about in the portal, in this spring portal, was Florida needs to add a safety. I don't know if this coaching staff feels they're able to do that. Because part of it's not about being athletic enough, right? It's not about, are you a good football player? It's about, if we're adding you in the spring portal, you've got what, 4 months to learn a playbook, which I know sounds so much easier, or sounds easy in general, right? Oh, study the hell out of playbook. And if you've never played football, this is something I'm going to tell you. And if you have played football before, at the high school level or anything like that, like, yeah, it's easier to do that in high school. Things are less complex. But it is not easy, especially if we're talking about in the portal. It is not easy to be at a school for however long you were at, know that playbook, and then go to a new school, and a couple months later, know that playbook and know how to operate in that playbook. Look, you can give me playbook. I've studied playbooks before. I have them downloaded on my computer. I have the PDFs, and I know what people should do in what situation. Not I don't have every playbook, but there are some where I know what people should do in certain situations and what they shouldn't do in certain situations. Okay. However, just because I know it doesn't mean I can go out there and execute it. So when I say, oh yeah, learning the playbook, you can know the playbook mentally, but to go out there and do it instinctively, because you can't think, oh wait, this is what they're doing, then I have to do this. You have to know that's what they're doing, go do it. And so I think that it's a lot harder than people realize to go get a playbook and understand that playbook in just a couple of months, especially when you talk about there are practice limitations, right? Again, you can know it doesn't mean you can go out there and do it. And then when you have to go out there and do it and learn how to do it, you don't have unlimited time to do that. Sure, you have the full 4 months. You can spend 24/7 studying the playbook. That's different from going out there and practicing the playbook. I think that that's an important part. And so safety, I don't know if you could do it just because you need to know so much, recognize so much, identify so much. And also part of it is learning who's in front of you, who's next to you. Things like that, they add to it and make it more complex. So I don't know if Florida would be able to get a starting safety in the portal. All right. If you're talking about experience, depth, or multi-year contributor, we'll have a different conversation. But as far as people thinking, oh, Florida should go upgrade their starters at certain positions, this staff has said that they don't feel there's certain positions they can do. Tight end, they're not going to go get a starter in the portal. Not going to happen. I'm not even talking about replacing Hayden. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just saying this staff is not going to go get a tight end in the spring portal that they think is going to be an immediate starter or immediate significant contributor. They're not. Linebacker is an interesting one because it's very complex mentally. But a lot of guys who have experience playing that position, I mean, actually like playing game experience, not practicing, playing that position, usually pretty smart guys, or at least high football IQs. Linebacker's interesting. Like I said, Florida might be setting up a visit with a linebacker. We'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. There is nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. Like, I'm a Knicks fan. Madison Square. I was looking for tickets yesterday. I genuinely was looking at tickets. And then I also just happened to look at the most expensive tickets. And I took a screenshot of it because I thought it was nuts. But yesterday morning at about 11 a.m., the most expensive ticket for the Knicks versus Pistons game, which again, I thought was insane, was $32,000. So that was crazy. But I did almost go. I saw tickets for, I think it was like $340, but just decided not to. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. You should Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. You can put Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free. You listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And before we talk about the Florida Gators setting up a visit with a linebacker, it's important to acknowledge what good transfer portal additions are, okay? And there are generally two brackets that I try to group them in. And when I say we try to group them in, I mean here on Locked On Gators, we built a family community. We talk all the time about things. And so it's something that we've been saying and that we've been talking about, similar to me saying, hey, Chim Dike, going to be in the NFL for a decade. We talk about it. We have certain thought processes here. And one of them with the transfer portal is that you are looking for a guy who was a significant contributor, has proven production at his previous spot. That does not mean that the expectation is he's going to come in here and have that proven production or continue that production, right? And again, I don't care about the reason that people leave. If you're going for money, education, to prove that you could step up and compete against NFL talent, then you do that. Because if you're going to do that, it's going to be in the SEC. So you do that. I don't care. I'm not here to judge your reasoning for leaving if you're a player. So I don't care. People will. I don't. But we're looking for a guy who has proven production at his previous spot. That does not mean that we expect him to come to Gainesville and have that same production or contribute that same way. If you're a proven competitor, if you're a proven productive player and you're coming to Gainesville to be a backup, hell yeah, I'll take it. So proven productive player at his previous spot. Okay. And we do have those little, if you were injured, then we chalk it and we go, all right, what was the year prior when you were healthy? Did you have proven production? Or a guy, like I mentioned earlier, who's been in college for no more than a year. Okay? So, Zaquan Patterson, you could feel how you feel about him as a player, but he would be classified as that guy that has been in college for less than a year, and so he's looked at as more of a long-term multi-year addition, and that's how we would view him. Florida has been in contact with Andrew Simpson, linebacker from Boise State, who is currently in the transfer portal. And we found out yesterday that Florida has been in contact with him, and it is possible that he takes a visit to Gainesville. He also currently has visits with North Carolina, Syracuse, Purdue, potentially USC, has also been speaking to UCLA, which at Nico, so California school is going. Has been speaking with Penn State, Texas A&M, Arkansas. I think there's like 4 other schools that he's been talking to. Not just, oh, hey, how you doing? But talking to. And so he's been taking those visits. And Andrew Simpson would fit in the proven productive player at his last spot. Because when you look at Andrew Simpson, what you're looking at is a 2-year starter at Boise State, a 3-year contributor at Boise State, someone with almost 1,500 career snaps. There we go. And you're looking at someone that would be able to come in and contribute in some way. And I say in some way because I really don't know what the expectation would be. We're not big on speculation here. We don't do that with Locked On Gators. We're not trying to speculate about things many times. But what I will say is, and I mentioned this last segment, I think linebacker is a tough spot to truly say, hey, he can come in and be a big time player and right away in the spring portal, just because it's such a complex position. We've talked about this so many times where I personally generally don't think of any freshman linebacker and say, oh, he's going to be a contributor this year, like a big time player this year. Not to do with anything about them being bad. It's just a really difficult position to play in college football. Linebacker in college football is more difficult than linebacker in the NFL. And I know that sounds like I'm just being a lunatic, but it's a genuine stance that I have. Of course, when we talk about just being up against better athletes in the NFL and better football players, then sure. But I'm talking about the mental side of it. It's really difficult because when you look at college offenses, you look at the NFL and NFL offenses, everything you see in the NFL, except for the tush push, you're going to see in college, right? You're going to see those similar concepts, everything like that. You're going to see all that. But one thing that you're going to see, or a couple things that you're going to see in college that are different from the NFL, make it harder to play linebacker there mentally. Okay? Because you're talking about playing against offenses that have really wide splits, like the Tennessee Volunteers, that little bullcrap offense that they have of we're going to line up as far as possible and look like complete clowns, because that's all Tennessee and their fan base is, clowns. So you can see that makes it more difficult to play linebacker. You've got to defend wider splits, larger splits. It's tough, right? So that makes it harder. But one thing that also makes it damn near impossible to be a good linebacker in college right now is the RPO. Because in college, offensive linemen can go farther downfield blocking on passing plays than they can in the NFL. In the NFL, you get a yard. College, they'll let you go 5 or 6 before they actually throw a flag. Like they let you abuse it. Wake Forest has their walk RPO. Had their walk RPO. Ole Miss has their RPO game where they hold that thing and then they wait and then they throw, and it makes it really difficult. Okay? So linebacker intellectually is really tough. I say all of that to say that I don't know if it would be, or I don't know how difficult it would be for someone like a Andrew Simpson to come in and contribute right away, because Andrew Simpson, again, has been here for 3 years, or has been at Boise State for 3 years. And the first few years of that, Andy Avalos was the head coach, okay? And Andy Avalos, a great, brilliant defensive mind that is currently the DC at TCU, he was the guy running that defense. He's a linebacker, so he knows what it's like to play linebacker. He was coached, or Andrew Simpson was coached up by Andy Avalos, and it wouldn't shock me if he was actually able to come in and learn a playbook and be able to contribute right away. Andrew Simpson, an off-ball linebacker that can come down to the edge or blitz from the off-ball spot. So I do, and also that was something he's done consistently throughout his career at Boise State. There have been certain games that I said, hey, it'd be more beneficial to have you lining up on the edge and rushing them more consistently, and they do that. And so I'm not sure exactly how impossible it would be for someone like Andrew Simpson to come in and be able to contribute right away. I do think that, again, that Andy Avalos is a good defensive mind. I think that he did a great job setting up Andrew Simpson to succeed. But now that's my thing about coming in and learning a playbook right away. It's not about whether or not you are good enough. It's about whether or not you have enough time to learn your role and contribute. And so we could talk about Andrew Simpson as a starter, genuinely, because it looks like what we're going to see is a variation of what we saw last year, which is going to be you'll have Pup, Jaden Robinson, probably going to play the most snaps. You'll have Miles Graham is listed as playing the Will, where you have both Pup and Jaden Robinson listed as playing Mike. That could matter, right? You'll have, again, Miles Graham probably playing the Will. We got Ty Jackson in there competing. Andrew Simpson could come in at Will, start, or, and I'm not saying start because I don't think Miles Graham is good enough. Let's get that take out the way. We don't know if Miles Graham is going to be great on a larger sample size. So maybe Andrew Simpson could come in and start, or he can come in and be that backup, learn the playbook behind Miles Graham, play significant snaps. I'd imagine he's looking to start. I would imagine that that's his expectation, but also if that was truly his expectation, probably would have been winter portal maneuver there. Or he could just honestly be looking at what Boise State's doing in the spring, be like, hell no, I didn't get out of here. But I do think Andrew Simpson would be a good portal addition for the Florida Gators. My main hesitancy simply comes from it's really tough to come in, learn that position, and be able to contribute in just a few months. All right. We are going to talk about what else the Florida Gators might do in the transfer portal in just a second with Locked On Gators. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. Pete Alonso to get a hit, pretty free money. Just saying, Pete Alonso, Aaron Judge, New York can help you make some money, all right? Both those guys hitting great. They're both top 10 in average right now. They're monsters. And also, just to be completely honest, I would die for Pete Alonso. I just want to throw that out there. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free, representing the podcast and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators, like we said, are honestly, I do think people are kind of surprised with how Florida is, I'll say, moving in the transfer portal. Not that I think it's a bad thing. I'm not saying any of that. I am saying, though, that I don't think many people expected Florida to make many adjustments or many moves or many decisions or anything like that at all. Just because we know, hey, Florida is up against the scholarship limit and up against the roster limit in general. However, Florida has been in contact with some guys that they view as needs. That could be depth on the interior defensive line, depth at safety, linebacker contributor maybe. Also, I will say, I think Andrew Simpson might just be a case of pretty good football player, wants to come here, or willing to come here, is interested in coming here. Maybe we kick the tires, because I do think that there's absolute validity in saying, hey, this guy raises our floor or our ceiling. Let's kick the tires and just do that. That's the fine approach. I would still look at interior defensive line. I think Florida will still look at interior defensive line. Joshua Horton, Miami defensive lineman that entered the transfer portal, that Florida was talking to and speaking to, and supposed to have a visit with. He ended up committing to Georgia this past weekend, which is not surprising. He's from Georgia. Georgia got the visit, and Georgia in the portal. Very enticing, very good. I think they added 3 players this past weekend. So he's off the board. I don't know if that means that Florida is really going to speak to too many other interior defensive linemen. Because again, it's not about, we need interior defensive line depth or experience depth. We need to go get it. No. Again, it's not a glaring weakness. Florida's interior defensive line, they've done a hell of a job recruiting there. Gerald Chapman has done a hell of a job coaching there. This is the guy that might raise our floor again or raise our ceiling for this year. Let's go get him. Like, I don't think that a Joshua Horton raises your ceiling. I don't think adding a Zaquan Patterson raises your ceiling. But I do think they help raise your floor because if an injury happens, they help you from bottoming out there, right? You don't have nobody behind them. You have someone. So I don't think interior defensive lineman is a glaring weakness. But again, I do think that adding experienced depth would be very helpful for the win now mentality, right? Because Florida, and also we'll talk about long term in a second, but also Florida is in win now mode. I know that there's going to be people who are going to be upset with me this year, and that's fine. I've been very vocal. I mean, hell, before last season, I was saying 2025 needs to be a playoff year. Before last season, I was saying that because that's the expectation. And that is a testament to the job that I think this coaching staff has done building and front office have done to build this roster. Okay? I think they've done a great job. I think they have a roster that is built to win now. But that is also why I've been saying that it is up to coaching to match up to the talent. It's up to coaching to catch up to the talent because the talent is here. And if you're not winning games, that means that the coaching is not. Okay? This team's in win now mode. I think adding an experienced depth piece to interior defensive line, safety, I guess linebacker as well, corner. Like, I think adding experienced depth there helps you with that win now mentality. But I also think that it could help with your long-term development. Not rushing guys into games. Because again, I've said this a trillion times at this point. I think video games have helped destroy the critical thinking, roster building minds in a key way. Obviously, it has helped increase the football IQ of people. You know, you play these games and you don't get all the ins and outs, but you learn things about what cover 3 is, what cover 4 is, cover 2, all that stuff. You learn about just building a roster in general. But video games have a fatal flaw when we're talking about franchise or dynasty, and that is you put a young player in the game, they're going to get better. That there's no downside because the way that people get better in the video games is just getting snaps, getting playing time. That's it. That's it. You do that, you're getting better. When in actuality, you can come in too early and shoot your development down, shoot your confidence down, and never recover. We see it happen all the time with kids. They get thrown into the fire too soon and they never pan out. We've seen that happen. I think having that experienced depth helps keep you from throwing those guys into the fire too early. But I also think that having that experienced depth and having people who can come in and say, hey, like this is the right way to do things. I think having guys like that is huge for the long-term development of the young guys. To say, hey, I've seen them go through it. I haven't gone through it as a starter, but I've seen them go through it as a starter. I know how they handled it. They did that well or poorly. I get to do it the same or different. I get to do it how I think the right way would be. So I do think that looking at the interior defensive line, add experience depth there would be helpful, but I don't think you need it. I would like it. I don't think you need it. As in, it is a need, but it's not something I think you have to go burning resources to go address if it's not someone that's going to help you right now. If there's an offensive lineman that's a multi-year player, I would kick the tires. I would. Yeah, like even if I don't expect anything from you this year, if I can get 2 years from you after that, huge. Would love it. Wouldn't complain about that at all. I think that'd be a great job. So there's spots you could do it. Tight end's another one. If you can find a guy who, hey, you're not going to do much this year, but in the future, hell yeah, then hell yeah, go do it. I do think that Florida's doing a fantastic job building a roster. I've been very vocal about that. That's why I don't want anybody to think it's me hating on anything. It's me simply saying I think that they've done such a good job off the field Now I need to see it on the field. And if you can't do it on the field with this roster, which I genuinely believe is college football playoff caliber, potentially SEC championship caliber, if you don't do it with this roster, then I don't think you can do it with any roster, right? And if this roster isn't nearly as good as we anticipated, that also comes down to you because you built the roster at this point, right? It's year 4. I still believe this is a college football playoff roster. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't get paid $7-point-something million to do this, though. So I'm allowed to be wrong, right? I think that's fair. Thanks for Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow, talk more Florida Gators. Probably going to lean a bit basketball tomorrow. Just hint, hint. I don't like to, we're supposed to have a guest. I don't like to spoil guests before in case things, happen, in case things get kicked down and we got to readjust. So I don't like to spoil things there, but I will say, supposed to talk basketball tomorrow. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I will see you all next time.